Welcome to a story about King Edmund, the king of the Eastern Angles, and how he was killed by the Viking Heathen army. If you go to Suffolk, it's a really beautiful county, kind of in the middle. There is St Edmund's borough, named after a Christian martyr, and this is his story. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin. It was many, many years ago when the Vikings from over the sea came to invade the ancient kingdom of the Eastern Angles. And they captured King Edmund, who was a very devout Christian. And instead of giving him a quick warrior's death, the heathen Vikings decided to have some fun. And in order to convince Edmund to renounce his god, they tied him to a tree. And instead of just killing him quickly with one spear, many of the warriors had light javelins, and so many of them could throw a javelin at Edmund, kind of a bit like killing someone by committee, really. And so he bled slowly, but such was his faith that he stayed true to his own God. The heathen Vikings were worried that his soul may rise from the other world and may try to seek revenge on them. So in order that his soul would rest at peace, after he was dead, they cut off his head, and they took his head and they hid it behind some bushes. King Edmund's thanes, King Edmund's loyal retainers, went in search of his head, that their king would be buried intact. And to their surprise, they heard his voice. They heard the voice of their king calling, "I'm here. I am over here." And when they followed the sound of his voice, they found, behind the bushes, a wolf. And there, between the wolf's front paws, was the decapitated head of their king and lord. And the wolf, who had faithfully guarded King Edmund's head, simply stood up and ran away. And so Edmund was buried intact, became a Christian martyr, Saint Edmund, and at one time patron saint of England. I think there is a campaign running to try and have Edmund reinstated as patron saint of England, because he was English. This is mostly championed by Radio Suffolk. It's an odd story. That King Edmund was killed by the invading heathen army is fairly likely, but the whole thing about a decapitated head still speaking and about being guarded by a wolf sounds very much more like a pre-Christian, very much older pagan story rather than a Christian story. So this is obviously something which has roots which go back a very long way. It's another Christian story like that. If you go from Suffolk south to Essex, before you get to Harwich, there's a little place called St Osyth, and St Osyth is named after another Christian martyr. She was a nun who was decapitated by the invading Vikings, the invading heathen army. But this didn't worry her too much. She simply stood up, picked up her head and walked off with it. And there was then a priory built in her name. But of course we all know that image from Gawain and the Green Knight, which obviously has to have a story that has much older roots. There's a little bit of a debate among storytellers, certainly a debate among St Edmund's very council as to whether stories should be told to children, which involve decapitated heads or decapitated talking heads. And if you know very much about storytelling, you'll know that there are quite a lot of stories about the power of a decapitated head and heads that carry on giving people wisdom and advice long after they've parted company from the rest of their body. It's an interest. I think it's an interesting debate, that one. Children actually seem to quite like those kind of stories, but there you are. History and ancient fable combining. On that note, I will bid you good day. Thank you for watching. My name's Fiona. I have a YouTube channel with stories and spinning and craft work and all sorts of things. I hope to see you again soon. Oh, if ever you do visit Suffolk, do go to Sutton Hoo, where the ship burial was found. Okay, have fun.